Hey everybody. Hey everybody. We're really excited to be here, so thank you so much for having us. It's very important when you're having a national conference on community-based participatory research, to involve young people and to make it intergenerational. So we're really excited to bring the students here to present their work to you today. For this workshop, this is the basic agenda for the day. I'm going to introduce a research, community-based participatory research institute that I co-founded with two other San Francisco State professors, Jeff Duncan Andrade and Allison Santiago Cubales. Then we're going to talk about the importance of teachers using youth participatory action research in the community to transform the social and the material conditions that are oppressing our community and to create the next generation of solutionists. Then the young people who we're working with, the name of their organization is H2O. They're going to present their work. And that's basically going to be looking at eco-apartheid and how that's playing out in Bayview Hunters Point and beyond. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about, in their slides, the use of, we saw GIS mapping, sort of participatory mapping to grow the next generation of climate scientists and energy innovators. I briefly just wanted to say that we're living in a time of growing the prison industrial complex is growing, right? And 1 out of every 4 people locked up anywhere on the planet is locked up in a United States jail or prison, and most of those people are Black, Latino, and poor, right? We're living in a time of increasing racial profiling, right? Folks like Oscar Grant, Trayvon Martin, anyone who knows my own personal story or who Googles me knows that I've experienced racial profiling on an individual level. But what's even more troubling is that racial profiling is happening in our schools and in our communities on a daily basis, right? And we don't really think about it in that way. So when that young student doesn't get into Algebra 1 in 7th grade, we're not thinking of that as racial profiling, but it's happening on a systematic basis, and it is impacting our young people's access to command over resources and to just reaching their full potential. We're living in a time of growing opportunity gaps, particularly in STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. And we're living in a time of an increasing climate crisis, right? The Earth is suffering, and it happens to be disproportionately affecting low-income communities and communities of color. My term for that is called eco-apartheid, and you're going to hear us talk about that and share that with you today. And then finally, we're living in a time where we've done a lot of analyzing the problems, but we really need innovative solutions, right? And so we need to begin to heal the historical and the psychological trauma that has been impacting our community. And in an effort to do that, Jeff, Duncan Andrade, and Allison and myself have opened a 4,000 square foot community-based research institute in downtown Oakland called ISEED. ISEED stands for the Institute for Sustainable Economic, Educational, and Environmental Design. It's really an amazing facility, and the idea is that we will specialize in the intersection of youth participatory action research, community-based participatory action research, critical pedagogy, workforce development, and environmental design. Our mission is simple. We want to create the next generation of climate scientists and energy innovators from low-income communities and communities of color. Our work is intergenerational, and so the presentation that you're going to see here today, you're going to see one of our former graduate students, Tiffany Johnson, our brilliant Tiffany Johnson, sitting here to my right, who is a graduate of San Francisco State University and who is now a PhD candidate at UC Berkeley. She has really pioneered the work that you're going to see here today, and in a moment I'm going to pass the mic over to her. But we're going to share with you a group of 9th graders who are now going into 10th grade, really presenting their vision of how to create sustainable cities and schools so that people do not have to leave their communities in order to live, learn, work, and thrive. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this over to Tiffany.
Good morning. Thank you again for having us. I'm going to briefly describe my experiences being advised and mentored by Professor Cohn, Professor Jeff Andrade, and my experiences with IC. I want to start with a narrative. I clearly, I'll never forget it. My senior year was May of my senior year in high school, and I went to school in San Francisco. And I remember we were riding up the 44 O'Shaughnessy, and we were going up the hill, and a classmate of mine, Jarvis, was on the phone, and he was arguing with someone, and we were just impressed that he had a cell phone. And he's arguing, and I remember he's arguing, and this essentially would be the last time that we saw Jarvis. He was killed that evening. And he was arguing with the person who killed him. And it was a huge event for us. And as the person who was chosen to present our commencement speech, as a grieving student, I chose to put a moment of silence in my speech for Jarvis. And my principal looked at my speech and suggested that I omit the moment of silence. And she gave me two options. If I wanted to speak, I would take out the moment of silence, or I wouldn't be allowed to speak at my graduation. It was the first moment in my life where I was forced to negotiate my identity, where I was forced to deal with and process the reality that my experiences were not acceptable, or not an acceptable part of my school and my schooling experiences. And so from there, okay, we got some slides going on. And from there, I took that with me throughout my undergraduate experience at Berkeley and through my education courses. And essentially, I wanted to become an educator that responded in a more authentic and caring way. It was that one experience that kind of shaped my worldview and my ideology, not just towards education, but just towards humanizing experiences. Essentially, as I came back to the Bayview community where I grew up, I became a teacher at Kip Bayview Academy. And it was there, upon coming back to that same community, that I noticed that it was pretty much the same. Black and brown males still dominated the prison system. Black and brown males still held up the largest number of those who were dropping out of school. There were more in the prison system than there were in all the colleges combined in California. And essentially, and from these experiences, from these experiences, I was still in a very segregated community. Okay? We were still being subject to violence. In actuality, one summer we had students who had to step over dead bodies to get to school. And they came and they shared that with us upon getting to school. We still had students facing, having extreme cases of asthma and asthma attacks. And so it was upon these realities that I wanted, thank you. It was upon these realities that I wanted to, again, respond to these realities in my community with a very authentic style of teaching, one that included my students' realities within my own pedagogy. And what I noticed within the arena, within schooling, within education, is there's particularly two or three rather kinds of responses. For many folks, there's just no response. Right? Students' lives and their experiences are completely left out of their schooling experiences. And then there's what Angela Valenzuela identifies as authentic, or aesthetic rather, caring. Much of what I think my principal was trying to do. Her reason for wanting to omit Jarvis's story, or the moment of silence, was that she didn't want to sadden the crowd at the graduation. Right? But in actuality, that was our grieving process. And so she didn't have a true understanding of our experiences, and therefore her aesthetic caring actually caused more harm than good. And then, just as there's a very small percentage of teachers and educators who exhibit what I identify as authentic caring. Students or teachers rather, who include students' experiences within the classroom, who identify the struggles and pains that they're going through. I wanted to mirror and emulate this style of teaching. What Cornell West identifies as the painful being the hopeful, identifying students' struggles and their pains as means to help them to overcome it. through their educational experiences. And so I chose to take on a very problem-posing Freirian-style structure in my teaching. As you can see here, students would do college-level IDs where they would write about hegemony, or this slide. Students would, I can't even see that, but one of their body paragraphs identified this process that they created, a very Freirian praxis for change. We would even have students purchase blue books, middle school students, to take their finals in so that they were a part of the college-going culture. And what we found was that we were creating intellectuals within our classroom. However, we still had the same realities going on in the streets. We had, critically conscious students who could tear down Freire and connect it to Tupac and compose amazing essays, but they would still be immersed in communities that were exposed to extreme violence. They still had the toxicities that existed within the Bayview community. And so in collaboration with IC, we decided to take on a full-on approach towards youth participatory action research, primarily, next slide, to continue to balance the level of critical thinking and reflection that occurred. But we wanted our students to take on more of an approach towards a very transformative style agency. So our students can impact their immediate, their material conditions immediately. And so this style, what we did when we implemented this last year at Leadership High School, next slide, was that we took on, again, this YPAR model in which our students were exposed to various decolonizing methodologies within their research. And we took it to the streets, as you'll find out in a second. And our students began to analyze the facets of sustainable communities. They took field notes, they coded them, they learned the various languages needed in order to address these styles of research. And what you'll find in a few seconds is the results of their research project. Okay? I want you to give it up to our freshmen from Leadership High School. Sophomores, I'm sorry, I really did correctly. They're going to come up and their research will speak for itself.
Okay, come on, let's do this. Come on up.
Not this one.
The body that aids our city is infected. The open wounds that our communities are left untreated and neglected by the government. Liquor stores flare communities like diseases. Convenience stores bring us type 2 diabetes. ORC turns a blind eye to empowerment obesity. According to the Department of Health, 20% of black bodies fall away. Never cut the irony until now, when I would hear old folks walk around and say, I got too much on my plate. Stress wasting into the ribs. We're taught about stress with conscious meat. To wrap it up, to box the unenabling arches. Our bodies have harsh profit margins. Our stomachs develop a chemical dependency on the $10 billion industry that honestly has never given us a chance to heal.
In our communities, violence is ritual, of which we become disciples, native sons, born under bloody suns, to struggle to see beyond the crimson horizon. Cumulative causation of neglect
Sounds like bullets bouncing off flesh. Like police issue boot plants at the top of necks.
Neglect sounds like a mother asking if her son is next. There is no wonder why hypertension runs in our families. There are more black men in prison now than there were in the 80s.
We are a generation of inequality, descendants of strange fruit.
Who bear witness to vivid images of injustice on a daily basis. In our communities, we're more likely to develop PTSD through our PhDs.
We strive for wellness, despite having to make the best out of our mother's kitchens.
Creating miracles out of top ramen, fried foods, and canned vegetables.
Survival has been our only lesson in nutrition.
Organic produce proves too expensive. For us, each day is a lesson in turning trauma into triumph.
Eco-apartheid in our communities is outlined by the residual pollution that rests along our skyline. Our lungs are forced to inhale toxins. The still remains of cigarettes, gunpowder, and genocide. Highways constructed in the heart of our communities have cut us from the main artery of the city, while officials ignore the fact
That the bodies of our communities are hemorrhaging.
pain is the residue of death, where the loss of one breaks us down emotionally. Ostracized to the outskirts of our city, tears flood our streets led by broken down screens.
We wonder if anybody thinks that concrete break beneath our feet. In our communities, we are left questioning
whether we exist in two worlds, whether we're still segregated.
Still born on the wrong side of the tracks. Whether the color of our skin
Continues to hold us back.
We also use our U.S. understanding of literacy to read a 10 excerpt of Luis Rodriguez's book, Always Running. In this inspiring novel, Luis Rodriguez talks about his life and all the hardships he had to go through. As Luis Rodriguez went to jail, he read a poem from someone saying, "Aquí estoy la calle cejando, nadie sabe mi placa y nadie le importa. Voy a la casa en mi ruca, pero nomás me quedo mirando. Del bote de county, los dos de la ocupación, pongo su placa en la celda, y con este pensamiento sufro una desgracia." This poem from Always Running briefly explains the effects of cumulative causation. Cumulative causation is analyzing the systems around a community that make a person who he is today. The young man in the poem was impacted by a system which created stress, a lack of resources, and depression. The young man was impacted by a system. The poverty was an example of vertical violence, which is a top to bottom form of oppression of certain people. Then the oppressed become the oppressors, also known as horizontal violence. This resulted in the young man's alienation. Oftentimes, in poor communities of color, people participate in illegal activities to get money, which often result in jail time. Once in jail, people often internalize their oppression. It becomes a continuous cycle of oppression, which results in the realities that we see in our communities today.
While we consider our literal method should be extremely important, we find it just as important to explain the theory behind our methodology. We understand that historically research and researchers have had a tendency for studying down. For us, this means to study indigenous people who they thought were inferior to them. One specific example of an anthropologist studying down was when Dr. Alfred Kober of UC Berkeley captured Ishi, a Native American and the last member of his Yanni tribe. Researchers named him after Ishi, but refused to give his name for cultural reasons, and he was released to Dr. Kober to be studied. Many confuse Ishi's ability to adapt to his colonization as reality of him being civilized. He was used as an exhibit in a museum for people to gaze at. He was alive and people treated him as some sort of object. At nights, Ishi would serve as a janitor. Even upon his death, there was controversy over who would own his remains. Culturally, it should remain with him, but anthropologists continue to fight over his remains, and at one point, they sent his brain to be studied at the Smithsonian Institute.
We just learned that researchers, and specifically anthropologists, have almost always studied down. There are numerous occasions where someone such as Christopher Columbus has discovered a land, yet it's already inhabited. What we're doing in our research is studying up. We're looking from the inside out. We are researching systems of power. Laura Nader, writer of the book, Studying Up, went into an anthropology meeting and took notes. She was studying up. The anthropologists were agitated and bothered by her presence. She received resistance from this group dominated by white men. It was as if they were saying, "No, you don't study us. We study the inferior, not the superior." Now, in our research, we're not necessarily studying white men, but we are studying systems that impact cumulative causation. We're studying systems that allow for equal apartheid. Instead of studying people within each of these communities and conversing on why they have varying outcomes, we seek to study the systems that create these conditions. Now we know, like Laura Nader, our research received resistance, but we consider these approaches, these forms of decolonizing methodologies, to be extremely important. As a result, we're calling our research decolonizing methodologies. This term was coined by Linda Smith, who argued that these methods enable us to deal with contradictions and uncertainties. They give space to plan, strategize, and take greater control over our resistance. Historically, research has been used to colonize. If someone called people dirty, uncivilized, and lacking language and class, then this colonization will seem necessary. Smith states that imperial imagination enabled European nations to imagine the possibility of new worlds, new wealth, and new possessions that can be discovered and controlled. We are indigenous to our communities, and we're using decolonizing methodologies to enhance rather than colonize.
We started our research by having a course on health that discussed different community resources, known as eco-apartheid and the impacts of cumulative causation. We analyzed factors around communities that shape who people are and how those factors affect communities differently. We discussed communities that are very close to each other, communities like Piedmont and East Oakland, East Palo Alto and Palo Alto. However, regardless of the fact that these communities are very close to each other, their realities are different. In San Francisco, the two communities that were the closest to our school with these drastic differences are the Sunset and Bayview community. We conducted field research on these two communities and took field notes, meaning that the 17 of us wrote down all of our observations in our notebooks to look something like this. One of our observations was, the road is still ugly. There's a liquor store in mostly every corner. Another observation was, I see a police van across the street from what I just witnessed, a drug sale. When we came back to our study space, we had a discussion that discussed how cumulative causation impacted these two communities differently. With that discussion, we established indicators. These major indicators are liquor stores versus grocery stores, educational resources versus funeral homes, congestion versus open green space. From our initial findings, it was clear to us that the Bayview had more liquor stores, funeral homes, and congestion, while the Sunset had more open green space, educational resources, and grocery stores. Therefore, we returned to both communities to better document our initial findings. Instead of taking field notes, we took pictures, captured a video, and documented indicators of sustainable communities. These mapping tools helped us understand how devastating the disparities between these two communities were. In the Bayview, in our field notes, we documented that there were very dirty streets, there was a liquor store in mostly every corner, and in this particular picture, we captured two policemen observing the people in the community. Here's an audio recording of our observation.
Empty building, not even doors, gotta be locked with chains.
As we kept walking in the Bayview, we kept noticing that there was a liquor store in every corner. Here's an audio recording of our observation.
We are on 3rd of Geroy. It seems like wherever there's not a liquor store, there's a fast food restaurant. You see this Taco Bell, KFC.
Our last stop we went into the Bayview was a fast food restaurant who misspelled one of their items in their menu, shrimp. As most people know, shrimp is plural and does not need an S added after the word. However, when we went to the Sunset, we saw a whole new reality. Here's an audio recording of our observation.
All houses, no apartments. This is 44th and Irving Street.
Our last place in the Sunset was an organic juicing store, which was a new reality to us. Even one of our members was asked, why were we here? It was as if our presence was unnatural. This was a new reality to us because usually we would see a liquor store in the corner, not an organic juicing store that would help our health or help us, be better. Although the Bayview community has all these unhealthy resources, we don't want to leave you with the impression that they have no healthy resources. In fact, they have a new library opening up this month. They have organic food options, family resources, churches, college preparatory programs which one of our members attend, a non-alcoholic party location, open green space, and inspiring meals. However, although these resources are given to this community, they are scarce. Scarce, yes, sorry.
Before I begin the implication section, please focus your attention on this video.
Well, we found some statistics and the graduation rates of African Americans last year. The African American males were three African American males. Now that you know this, how does it make you feel?
Makes me feel honored because I'm graduating and I'm living up to something that people in the past couldn't do. But on the other side, I feel ashamed because it's like we're giving them another reason to judge us because of our race.
African Americans make up the second largest racial group at Thurgood Marshall Academic High School, but have the lowest graduation rates. In 2009, out of a graduating class of 150, only 16 African American students successfully graduated from Thurgood Marshall Academic High School.
It makes me feel terrible. I mean, I started working here in 1997, and you can kind of look at the panoramic pictures of graduating classes, and every year you will see a decline in African American students, Latino students, and Polynesian students. Every single year, 3 graduating African American boys. It's just horrific. It really is. This is, it's very discouraging as an educator.
It makes me feel like I'm rooted for to fail. They judge you by your 2nd grade test scores. Like when I was in the 2nd grade, I was getting bad grades, so it seemed like to me that they've been making my prison cell since I was in the 2nd grade. It's not good to be thinking they already expecting you to go to jail.
When you're dealing with poverty, and you're in a community where there are a lot of sort of social conditions that keep you from being engaged in education, just resources that just aren't around. And it's unfortunately a consequence of the situation you're in, not necessarily because of a lack of skills.
I think first, our school need the atmosphere to push the students to have the willingness to graduate. I think that's the most important thing.
Who do you think is responsible for these low graduation rates?
Us, because we really don't try.
They're not in a position to like not do their work, plan around me.
Students within themselves have to find a purpose in school. Why are you passing the grade? Right now for them it's kind of like they're so invested in what's going on in the streets, what's going on with their homies, what's going on with their friends, that they don't even do their work at school. But come junior year, that's when it becomes so much closer to home for them, because now it's like, oh my God, I have 1 more year left to graduate, and yet they don't have credits.
Do you believe that you are going to successfully graduate from Thurgood Marshall High School, and why? Or why not?
I don't believe I'm going to graduate from Thurgood Marshall High School because I'm falling behind the credits. And I'm trying to get my credits so I could be another Latino that got his diploma, and I can say I made it from high school.
Everyone has some sort of attribute they can give to the world. And if you have all these children, Baby Hunter's Point, highest concentration of children in San Francisco, and at alarming rates, so many of them aren't graduating from high school. All this potential, intelligence, energy, value that can be contributed to not only San Francisco, but the Bay Area, and possibly the world, is just not being utilized.
In what ways does this large amount of people not graduating affect the community?
Well, we are the community, right? Yeah. We're the future. So the students here are actually the community, like the future community managers or the next gang members or the next step into wherever this community may go. So we actually decide the fate of this community.
The same work that it takes to shoot people, we can be in school putting that into our schoolwork.
Well, it's our choice that we do it. Because we know from what's bad from right. And we just choose the bad sides and the right sides sometimes.
When I hit
at the statistics, it just makes me like want to prove them wrong. Like that, I know I'm gonna graduate, so then I just try to like help encourage my friends to like do good in school, so we can all graduate on stage and be like, oh, we made it when you guys thought we did it.
Why are their numbers so low? This graph here shows the graduation rates at Thurgood Marshall High School. In 1998, the graduation rate was 56.4%. In 2006, the graduation rate was 56.4%. And in 2009, the graduation rate was 26.6%. As you can see, as the school years increased, the graduation rates decreased. At Thurgood Marshall High School, only 35% of graduating seniors were eligible for UCs and CSUs. Of those 35% of graduates, 70% of them actually enrolled in these courses. Within the film, many students acknowledged that they were the reason why they were not succeeding. Even the teachers blamed the students for their failure. However, as we were reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, we came across an interesting quote that analyzed the situation in a more critical way. Malcolm X said, "But people are always speculating, why am I as I am? To understand that any person, his whole life from birth must be reviewed. All of our experiences fuse into our personality. Everything that ever happened to us is an ingredient." As you can see, it is clear that the Bayview community has health issues embedded in the community, meaning drugs, liquor stores, dirty streets, and homelessness are embedded within the cumulative causation of the Bayview community. Now, in this slide, it is clear that the Sunset has more healthy resources, meaning they have quiet residential areas and impressive view centers next to Golden Gate Park and Ocean Beach. At Lowell High School, located in the Sunset, 85% of their graduating seniors were eligible for UCs and CSUs. Of those 85% of graduates, 90% of them actually enrolled in the courses. Finally, in the H2O cohort, we are a family, sometimes too real of a family. Even though we don't like coming into tutorials or coming in on Saturdays, we are still creating a healthy, critically engaging academic environment. We would like to say,
yo, they labeled us, and we consider the throat of America, but we did not respect. Even for my elders, it's not about the reputation, all about the character. We are what we do, we stay true. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. You know that. Hope we got a habit. True is so belief in our community. We giants, eyes open, the unity, because we remain free. And that's the reason why we read, because literacy is to be present in the struggle. Discipline itself being a muscle, to obstacles, we won't buckle. Living life to the fullest, overcoming fears, with courage that contagious, and nobody fakes. We're using our literacy and ABC to take the world to our teeth. Using what we have to take back our own history and tell our own story. See, we create dangerously and live life, daily life, so they can be our last. Because our past is our present, so we use our words as weapons. Present will come from potential, our lives are intent, future lessons. Word.
My name is Oswaldo Santos.
My name is Eduardo Aguayo.
My name is Alasia Allah.
My name is Jada Lyons. I'm Jordan Brooks.
I'm Mateo Gonzalez Cisneros.
I'm Jonathan Torres.
Any more questions?
So can one of you just share your stories about what inspired you to become involved in this group? Was there any particular thing that happened? And just, can you just talk us through that a little bit?
We were in it. We all go to Leadership High School, and everybody is assigned to an advisory. And Tiffany had an advisory, and she pulled all the ninth graders, and well, she talked to most of them, I think, and she asked them if they wanted to be in something like this, and she told us the basics of what we would be doing, and we would read a lot, do a lot of work, extra work on top of our schoolwork, and the ones who like are here and who are not here, who are in the cohort, that we decided to be in it, and because we felt that we wanted to be in it.
The guy that just left, his name was Jacques Jacques Donaldson.
Yes.
Thank you all for the whole presentation. It was awesome. I just was curious what's next for you guys. How is this whole experience, how do you hope to move forward with it? If anyone wants to answer.
Well, this year, we still have like a few presentations left for this. This was just our freshman. Next year, we will be traveling, hopefully, more places, and we're trying to create a novel that is like basically creating dangerously, that just expounds on how cumulative causation impacts low-income communities and how you could disrupt that by using literacy or anything, basically.
I believe we will also be studying the court and justice system, if that's right. Yes.
I would like to ask how some of your peers feel about you being involved in this cohort. There are some reactions that you've gotten from some of your peers.
I was just going to say that next, in July 14th, some of us are going to Vegas for a presentation.
Can you repeat your question, please? I'm sorry.
I wanted to hear some of the reactions some of your peers may have had about you being involved in this cohort.
Well, I'm not going to speak for all of us because we all have different families, but I can say that, and friends, well, my friends don't really the friends that are in this cohort, we really get into it, we're really grateful that Tiffany gave us this resource because we don't know where we would be or our mindsets would be without this cohort. But other friends that are not in this cohort find it kind of ridiculous that we have to stay till 6 after school and do work when we have better grades than them and they don't even have to stay. They find it ridiculous that we have to come on Saturdays to study and do all of our work. They find it ridiculous that we have to present these mornings in summer, all of that. They don't think that's they don't think that's cool, but it's not in they're not in the right mindset to be oh, okay, that's what's up, they're doing something big, so it's all right, I'm not tripping, they'll get it one day, I tell them, but if they're not involved, then I'm not gonna pressure them because I don't want to be an oppressor. But my family, my family is also very grateful that I was involved in this cohort because they see me becoming a better person, and they see me doing big things in the future.
I just want to say thank you. You made my morning, perhaps my day, and for sure my week. Thank you so much.
I assume as a result of this experience, you see your futures differently from the way you did before. I'd really, really love to hear how some of you see your futures now.
I'm guessing for me, before this research, I just thought I would just go through life and I would just go with the flow and what would come. But being a part of this cohort made me realize that if I do that, I might end up in a bad place. So I can't just go with the flow and wait for what I expect to come. I have to go out there and get it, and just being here made me realize that, and to actually work to get it. I can't just wait for it to come. I have to do something. I have to be a part of something else and something bigger to be where I want to be, or be where I want to be. You know.
Well, can you repeat the question? I was wondering how you see your future differently now having had this experience compared to before. I see, well, now that I've been in this cohort, I see myself like going to college and going to graduate school and stuff like that. Like, I know I always wanted to go to college because that was always pushed for me in middle school, the most fun too. And but I never really knew what I wanted to do with myself, and this cohort helped me realize that I wanted to like be a writer and stuff. So it actually pushed me towards the goals that I want to succeed.
I've always, because of the way I was raised, I always wanted to give back to my community, but being in this cohort has showed me a way how to, and I think that's the biggest thing for me, and that's how I think I want to do something like that in my future.
I just want to thank you all for this presentation, but I want to ask, kind of when I'm assuming that you guys present also like within your school and to your peers or your families, and I'm wondering the kind of responses that you guys get when you do that kind of stuff, or how you teach those younger than you in your community, like do you go to the elementary schools and talk about this kind of stuff?
Well, actually, we haven't been to any elementary schools. We went to a high school in Oakland, with Castlemont, and we presented to their seniors, and and we presented to a high school in Hawaii. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, we presented to them, and yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh. The response from the students, like they didn't know what to say to it. Like they were just shocked. Like literally, like as each of us went up, like every time somebody spoke, they were just like the whole time. And then when they got to the questions and answers, like they were just like, we don't know what to ask. Like they just sat back and they were like, good job.
Next question.
Hi, I'm representing Montana State University along with two of my fellow grad students. First of all, I want to say you guys did a fantastic job. Feel free to come to the Crow Indian Reservation in Montana anytime you want. You said you're traveling. I'll be in contact with your man here. I think that's awesome. The Native American communities in the United States are very similar to much of the things that we've been talking about, rapping about, and sharing on the screen there. Like you, our reservations are full of bordering bars that just right smack at the borders of our reservation. The Crow Indian Reservation is the second largest Indian reservation in Montana out of 7. And all around us we're surrounded by bars. And people wonder why our alcoholism rate is so high. The youth on our reservation, because of poverty, don't have much to do. If you're not a basketball player, which everybody, that's the passion of the young people on the reservation is basketball. Then, what else is there to do? You look at our playgrounds, you look at things like that, busted up, nothing to do. But yet, it's movers and shakers like yourselves that are bringing in programs and compelling the young people to move forward. You don't like it, then do something. Let's do something together. One person is awesome, but many are even greater. So I just want to say that I really appreciate your presentation that you shared here, and I think it's awesome how similar our lives are, particularly with the Hispanic and the colored. And I'm really, really looking forward. This is one of the reasons why I went into community health, was because I am one of those people. I was one of you when I was younger, and now here I am today. Graduated a few months ago, graduate school. The first one in my entire Native American family on both sides. I'm originally from Canada, Cree, Blackfoot, and French. On the southern side in the States here, I'm Crow, Northern Cheyenne, and English. and I'm the first on either side to have a master's. So I'm really, really excited. So you guys keep doing you, and feel free to come to the reservations in Montana, because a lot of the cultures are losing their culture as far as Native American, and they do embrace the Black culture very much. They'd be very impressed with your rapping, your style, everything about you.
All right, well, we'll be there. How much more time do we have, Ian?
All the time you want.
Okay. We got time, 10 minutes. Go ahead, they're facilitating.
I'm from the Northwest, and the view of youth all across is not good the way I hear it, and in all across the nation. But this is a generation who we call, I don't know, to make the sentence, but we call it, sometimes I've heard it, Generation X. But that doesn't mean that it's the word that some people put out the image because of some cultures. But I have to thank the
Really thank Tiffany. I'm on tweet, but yes, it's really Tiffany and all of them. But yeah.
To be the front line to bring something good to the image of the young people. In my view of youth, it's so sad. Most of the young people are in jail. They are. I think they went the wrong path. It's because there's no help that system to hide and lead the youngsters. As Mr. Brooks said, that's why he chooses it, because it's the way that he found that will lead and guide them. And I like what he said. And I wish your crew will come out to the Northwest. Because that's all I hear about the youth out there. They are no good.
Well, we'd love to come to the Northwest. Seriously, we'd love to come, so that sounds great. Thank you for that.
Maybe one or two more.
From East Oakland, so we know exactly what you guys are talking about. We work with you from Alaska, and I'm very proud of you. I get very emotional. But I wanted to ask you, okay, so we know that from your project and East Oakland versus Cleveland, we know that there's a big. Now what? So what are you guys planning to do about it? How are you guys going to inspire others? Because I know that you guys are extremely inspired. But how about your peers? How are you going to do that work?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Well, we as a cohort came up with the idea of coming up with a soft drink that's healthy, and like it will promote like living healthy for the youth, and like we hope to get like the presentation out, and like that will be more aware. And yeah, that's one of the things that we thought about like, you know, having something healthy and having something positive in the communities, and probably bringing awareness to them, and like having them think more positive of themselves. But,
Oh yeah, to expound on her, on what she was saying, yeah, we usually had a video on our presentation, but we took it off. I don't know why, but yeah, that organic juicing was inspired by the organic juicing store we saw in the Sunset community, because we inferred that since that was there, it was like it was giving them better, I don't know, better living situations. You know, like if you put all negative stuff, you're gonna come out with a negative conclusion, right? But if you put good stuff in like a juicing, you're gonna get something good. So basically, we thought that if we came up with something healthy that's tasty and good and affordable for young folks like us, that it will be a better thing, and bringing awareness to our communities by doing this presentation, because most people after we present are inspired. Like the high school we went to, like all of them were shocked and like, damn, like we want to do something like that. Like that's inspiring for more young folks. But yeah, that's what we're trying to do, bring more awareness to this like generation. Anyway.
I just wondered if do you interact with other cohorts? I'm assuming since you said you're a cohort, like is there a 10th and 11th grade and?
I think a few months ago, or like maybe 2 months ago, we went to a presentation at IC, and we interacted with young, black, and gifted, and that was another cohort, and another cohort that it's called Step to College, and we interacted with them because what they were doing was very similar to what we were doing, and our three groups went up to present our presentations, and after our presentations were done, we took a picture together with Jeff, who had just recently won an award that day, and yeah, that's just how we interact with other cohorts.
Great.
Hi, thank you so much for inspiring me and everyone in this room. I really appreciate you sharing your stories. And I want to add to your travel list, I want you to come down to Southern California, to Orange County, which is usually seen as a place of a lot of privilege and very high-income communities, but it oftentimes ignores a lot of the low-income areas in our neighborhoods. And I'm actually working with a youth empowerment program right now at Anaheim, in the Anaheim Union High School District. And a lot of the youth are encountering the same problems or challenges that you mentioned in your video. And I was particularly struck when the statistics that you showed with the graduation rates declining, especially for African American as well as Polynesian and Pacific Islanders, which is the group that we're working with. And I'm wondering what sort of mentoring programs are in place for you to mentor your peers, other youth, to do the kinds of things that you're doing, and what are your hopes and dreams to be able to pass this on and sort of pay it forward to other of your friends and colleagues and peers?
Well, I mean, just by having this presentation and traveling and going to other places and just basically bringing awareness to our living situations and the way we were raised, the way we grow, the way we live, you know? Just by having this presentation and traveling to other places.
And also, I know personally with me, I bring like a few of my friends in after school and they stay with me and they study and they work. Like even though they might not have good grades, I still push them because they're my friends. And also, not too long ago, we worked on a project, all of us, about how to disrupt cumulative causation in our communities. And my project was where I wanted to have a group in my school where we talked about cumulative causation and how we could turn it into the students making it into an art form, and also like talking about issues that they can't talk about in schools, like maybe they lost somebody or someone's jealous, you know. And usually in those situations, people don't have anyone to talk to. And yeah, I'm hopefully gonna make that group for my school next year, and yeah, push on and to expand the group to other places.
Well, honestly, it's over.
He also wanted to.
Okay.
Sorry.
Alright, well, honestly, I believe the best way that students will learn is by letting them create the knowledge, because like if you tell a student what to learn, or what to do, like they're not gonna get it. But if you involve their life into it, like no doubt they're gonna get it. You know what I mean? Like if Tiff made us like realize all of this by bringing our lives into it. You know what I mean? Like I would have never been interested into this if it wasn't because I was living like this. If I was one of the people living in the sunset and had all these healthy resources, I wouldn't care. Like honestly, like I'm living the life sort of. So like, why would I care? But since I'm on the other side, I'm like, damn, like there needs to be a change. So I think by Tiffany letting us, by making lessons that involve our lives into it, is what is helping us learn more.
All right, so if you want to find out more about these programs, you can check out the IC.org website. I can give out some cards. Basically, these young people are going to be entering the Step to College program. So it'll be an early college model where they're getting San Francisco State credit in order to do the amazing work that they're already doing. I also suggest Tiffany is a PhD candidate at UC Berkeley. This is really her program. We're sort of the wind behind her sails in terms of mentoring, but what she's put together is outstanding. So can we give one final hand to both Tiffany